the recording. So today we're going to analyze the test of Anna, and it's interesting. We just had a conversation right now about nutrition, and many people think that their nutrition is good, which cannot be further from the truth. The truth is that most of the people, even though they think they are good in their nutrition, they are far, far away from that. So let's see, Anna, your test. Okay, so this is the first glance at your test, and we can already see that it is a lot of red parameters. So this is an overview of the test, but I recommend always to start with a bit lower, and that a bit lower is those more intuitive way of showing the parameters, right? Because it's very clear here that here is the norm, 1-to-1 ratio to 3-to-1 between omega-6s and omega-3s. So 3 times more omega-6 than omega-3 in the cell membranes. It's still, the cells would function almost the same way as 1-to-1. I give a bit stricter threshold, so I always say 2.5 is the last number. So between 1 and 2.5, because after you cross the 2.5 to 1, some things already change in the cell. Now the yellow zone is where the changes are happening in the cell. Cells are working with errors. So, and here I could give a long lecture on what's going wrongly in the cells, and maybe I will share a little bit of that here. So this is Harvard School of Public Health, right? So you can Google it. It's very easy. You can write on omega-3 Harvard to Google, and the first link that Google gives is this, and then you can read what is the most important about the omega-3. So, and it says that most human body can produce most of the fats it needs from other fats or other materials, but it is not the case about omega-3. So omega-3, there's only one way to get it. It's an essential fat, and you can only eat omega-3. And of course, also, it is important that you would eat it not spoiled, and it would not spoil inside your body. Now, why is the omega-3 so important? It is an integral part of all the cell membranes. So cells, so if I go and Google the cells, so cell membrane. So let's take an image. Let's take this image. So if you look at the cell membrane, so those green, of course, they're not green, but in this picture, they are pictured as green. So those green things are fatty acids. And every cell, so let's take an overview of the cell. So cell has an outer membrane, so outer wall of the cell. So this is bilayer of those fatty acids. So it's all omega-6s, all omega-3s, omega-9, and saturated fat. Now, cell inside the cell has organelles like mitochondria. So mitochondria are also created out of the membranes. Now, the nucleus also has the membrane. All of those membranes and some other organelles have membranes. So all of those, by the way, mitochondria, I guess, are here. So here is the picture of mitochondria. So all the organelles have membranes. All of those membranes are created of fatty acids. So now we are back to the Harvard. So if there is a change in the number of those fatty acids in the cell membranes, it influences so many functions of the cell that we can say that unbalanced fatty acids in the cells equals unbalanced and unhealthy cells. And cells are those structures that regulate every single function in our body. So basically, unbalanced fatty acids equals unhealthy body, unhealthy functions, unhealthy errors, and a lot of problems with health. Okay, so now, so as this is the constructed material, it influences all the functions of the cell membrane, and also it affects the function of the cell receptors. So now, from this point, any signaling to the cell from the body could go wrong. So it could be insulin, or it could be other hormones, or any other signals could go wrong. Now, omega-3 is the starting point for making hormones that regulate blood clotting. So blood clotting, with the low levels of omega-3, blood clotting goes up. So it's a risk of stroke, heart attack, and thrombosis, or any other issue with too high blood coagulation. Now, contraction and relaxation of artery walls. So it's a starting point. Omega-3 is the starting point for the hormones for the contraction of or relaxation of artery walls. So omega-3 is the relaxation of the artery walls. So if there is lack of omega-3, artery walls become too tense, which equals high blood pressure, or at least one of the factors for the high blood pressure. Now, the third thing, and might be one of the most important, is too much inflammation. So low level of omega-3 equals a lot of inflammation, which means body is over-inflamed, over-inflammatory, overreacting to everything. So any trigger that you can trigger the body may create two big reactions of the immune system, of the inflammation in any part of the body, in any tissue, in any cell. Okay, so one more thing. Also, omega-3 binds to the receptors in cells that regulate genetic function, so gene expression. So from the genetic code, our proteins are produced, and many, many other structures are produced. So basically, we are produced out of the genetic code. And this process is impaired with the lack of omega-3. So likely due to these effects, omega-3 fats have been shown to help prevent heart disease and stroke, may help control lupus, that's autoimmune disease, eczema, that's too much inflammation in the skin. We could name it like this: rheumatoid arthritis, too much inflammation in the joints, and may play protective roles in cancer and other conditions. So this is now I'm going to show another source, which is United States government website, National Library of Medicine. Now, this library says here that omega-6 to omega-3 ratio should be 1:1, but Western diets ratios are 15 to 16:1. So that's what we can prove with the map of the tests. So let me just jump here. If I have here the map, yes, I do. So if we click on Portugal, we have 846 tests made, and it's 17:1 on average, which is a red, which is a 100% consequence zone, which means that everything I read about the functions of omega-3, all of those functions go wrong in Portuguese bodies, in every single kid, in every single mother, in every single pregnant woman, in every single adult, which is a disaster. Somebody has to change this now. There's not that much time for some of the people. They go this way, this is going to be bad future for them. Okay, so now Western diets are deficient in omega-3 fatty acids, have excessive amounts of omega-6 compared with the diet which human beings evolved and their genetic patterns. So excessive amounts of omega-6 fatty acids and very high omega-6 omega-3 ratio, as found in today's Western diets, promotes the pathogenesis of many diseases, including cardiovascular disease, cancer, inflammatory, autoimmune, and so on. And if we check for the more specific cases like this, in the secondary prevention of cardiovascular disease. So when already there was a stroke or heart attack or something, what already decompensated the patient, the ratio of 4:1 was associated with 70% decrease in total mortality. 70% could still live if we changed the ratio back to 4:1 from 17:1, which means 70,000 out of 100,000. It's crazy, crazy, crazy numbers. And the rest you could read. So now back to your test, Anna. Your test shows 39.7:1. This is not even 17:1, not 9:1, not 3:1, or 2.5:1, which is my last number. So you are 39.7:1, which has to be corrected on the spot. So you need badly to do something about it. Now, protection value, this number shows how many percent you are protected from all of those degenerative diseases that PubMed is talking about, the United States government site, or Harvard. So your protection is zero. There's no chance. You will get the consequence if you don't change anything. You already probably have some irreversible damage, but I hope that most of the functions are still reversible. And once you balance those fatty acids, most of the functions will return back. And some of them we'll have to substitute somehow else, maybe with pharmaceuticals, or maybe, hopefully you will not need any. I hope so. Okay, so now omega-3 index. This is the good ratio of all the omega-3 fatty acids in the cell membrane is 10%. That's ideal. Now, 8% is the lowest number that you want to have, but so what you want to have actually 10%, right? Which is not too much, not too little. Now, if 10% we equal to 100% of the norm, then 3.2% equals 32, right? Which means that you had 1/3 of omega-3s in your cells. So if you remember all the functions of the omega-3s, so you could have expected 1/3 of the functions of your cells, of all the functions that are listed, which is not enough to keep the body healthy. So we need to increase this back to the green zone. Now, there are other ratios between other fatty acids in the cell membrane, and some fatty acids are extremely important, like DHA for the brain. So your level was also in the red zone, which means your brain had difficulty to perform all the tasks that it performs. So you might have been sleeping not so well. You might have been waking up all tired. You might have been getting tired through the day and being sleepy sometimes, or being like crazy tired, not willing to do anything at all, maybe even depressed a bit. So it's, and you could have been doing a lot of mistakes and so on. So this is the mental strength, because it was so deep in the red zone. Now, cell membrane fluidity, that's another thing that is influenced by omega-3 level, is that if there is lack of omega-3 and this ratio goes to the red, you could have been eating the perfect diet except the perfect ratio of fatty acids, but everything else could be perfect, like a lot of vegetables and everything, and a lot of vitamins, and they would not get into your cells properly. So your cells would be hungry all the time and intoxicated all the time, because they produce metabolites, and those metabolites, they are having difficulty to cross the membrane out of the cell. So mitochondria have too many metabolites inside, and the inner fluids of the cell have too many metabolites inside. So this is not good. This is bad nutrition of the cell and intoxication of the cell. And arachidonic acid, it's either your body is producing a lot of arachidonic acid for whatever reason, or you are eating too much of arachidonic acid. So what you would like to do is to Google maybe, or find the source of where arachidonic acid is in the food. And maybe if you are eating a lot of those foods, then you want to reduce those foods. If you are not eating a lot of those foods, in that case, it's not a big problem, because arachidonic is competing with omega-3. So once you increase the intake of omega-3, if it's going to be good source, good antioxidant together with omega-3, we recommend balanced oil in Zinzino. So if you take that, it will push the arachidonic out. So it's not going to be a problem if your body is producing too much of it. And it could have been that your body produced too much because it substituted the missing parts, missing other fatty acids. Now, if we go deeper into the test, which I do usually when the second tests arrive, because when on the first test, it's not very informative, but what I could say, you don't have too much of the saturated fat, which means that probably you were taking care of your diet, right? You tried to eat healthy. That's what I see here. You ate some omega-9, maybe olive oil, maybe avocados, maybe something also healthy in your diet. So basically, your biggest problem was the lack of omega-3. If you can see, EPA is one of the most important ones of all the omega-3s, was minus 90%. You only had less than 10% left, which is, we are happy that you are still alive. Sometimes people have like 8% left or 6%, and they're still alive, but it's dangerous state here. So I hope that you will get up to better levels very soon. So basically, this is what the test shows, and this is just an overview of the test, that if you are proficient in reading the tests, you can read it like very fast, right? You can just look at all the numbers and all the colors, and you would be fully aware of what the test says. Okay, so now let me tell you the shortest way to read the test, right? Because sometimes we need a very short way. So the shortest way, you read just two parameters. You read the balance and you read omega-3 index. Because if omega-3 index is going to be in the green zone and balance is going to be in the green zone, most of the parameters are going to be either green or close to the green. Okay, so this is the way to read the test. So I can stop the recording, and then we can talk about it in private.